You wake up in the morning, grab your phone, scroll through social media. You think, I just want to check the time. But 20 minutes later, you're still scrolling. You order coffee, the same one you order every day. You take the same route to work, talk to the same people, react the same way when things don't go your way. You believe these are your choices. You believe you're in control. But are you? What if I told you that most of what you think is a decision is actually a pattern? Think of a time when you got angry, fast, or when you said yes, even though you wanted to say no. You think, that's just who I am. But what if it's not who you are? What if it's how you were programmed? According to neuroscience, up to 95% of our thoughts, emotions, and actions come from the subconscious mind, not the conscious logical self we think is in charge. In other words, you are operating on autopilot, a system installed years ago, silently steering the wheel. Imagine sitting in a car, hands on the wheel, but the steering responds on its own. You think you're driving, but the car knows exactly where it's going because it's been told where to go long ago. That's your mind. The scary part, you don't realize it, because the illusion is perfect. You feel in control. You feel like it's your decision. But the question is, who programmed the system? And more importantly, can you break it? In the next section, we'll enter the deeper layers, where this programming begins, who wrote the script of your life, and how your mind became a puppet. There's a part of your mind that you never see, never hear, but it's always working, silently, relentlessly. It remembers everything, shapes your reactions, writes your beliefs, before you even know what a belief is. It's called the subconscious mind, and it runs the show. While you're busy thinking with your conscious brain, the subconscious is already 10 steps ahead. It's predicting, filtering, controlling, like a silent operator behind the scenes. And here's the terrifying part. It was programmed when you were a child. Think back to when you were 5 years old. You didn't understand the world. You were just absorbing it. Every word, every tone, every punishment, every praise. If your parents yelled a lot, you learned to fear mistakes. If you were ignored, you learned that your feelings don't matter. If love had conditions, you learned to earn it, to perform, to please, to shrink. And your subconscious was recording it all. It didn't ask, is this right? It didn't question, is this good for me? It just absorbed, like a sponge, then buried those rules deep within you. And now, you follow those rules, without even knowing it. You push people away because love once hurt. You sabotage success because you were told you're not good enough. You overwork, overthink, overgive, because somewhere, long ago, you were taught that your worth had to be earned. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are following instructions written before you could write your name, by parents, teachers, society, trauma, all etched into your subconscious. And now, you're the puppet. But the strings? Invisible. But what if you could see those strings? What if you could trace them back to where they first formed? In the next part, we will enter the past, where the strings were tied, and learn how to cut what no longer serves you. Because awareness is the first step to freedom. We all remember fragments of our childhood, the toys, the laughter, the stories before bed. But what we often forget are the scripts that were being written in silence, scripts that told us who we are, how much we're worth, and whether or not we are safe in this world. These weren't taught in classrooms. They were taught in glances, in silences, in the moments we cried and no one came. in the moments we succeeded, and still weren't enough. You weren't just a child learning language. You were learning your place in the world. Between the ages of 0 and 7, your brain was in a state called theta, a deeply suggestible state, like hypnosis. During this time, everything around you became truth, not through logic, but through emotion. If you felt neglected, you learned you're unworthy. If you were criticized, you learned you're not good enough. If you were controlled, you learned not to trust yourself. These moments became emotional imprints. That later evolved into behavior patterns. Have you ever wondered why you always attract emotionally unavailable people? Why success feels uncomfortable? Why you shrink when you should rise? It's not random. You're not unlucky. You are repeating the script. Your subconscious craves what's familiar, not what's healthy. If chaos was your normal, you'll seek it again. If love meant pain, you'll chase it again and again. These are not coincidences. These are patterns, and every pattern has a root. Think back. Can you remember the first time you felt unsafe expressing your truth? The first time someone dismissed your emotions? The first time you felt invisible? These are the origins of the strings, the knots that tightened around your identity. And unless brought into awareness, these knots don't loosen with time. They harden. But here's the secret no one told you. You are allowed to revisit those memories. You are allowed to question those rules. You are allowed to say, that belief was never mine. That fear didn't begin with me. That shame belongs to them, not me. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about understanding it, so you can rewrite what it taught you. Every painful pattern has a purpose, and once you find its origin, you can finally choose differently. In the next chapter, we'll go even deeper, into the hidden mechanisms of self-sabotage, the fear of success, and the comfort of staying stuck. Because sometimes, the prison is familiar, and freedom feels terrifying. But growth lives beyond that fear. You've felt it. That strange moment when everything seems almost too good. Things are finally working. You're making progress. You're about to rise. And then you fall. You ghost people. Miss the opportunity. Procrastinate. Sabotage. But why? It's easy to blame laziness or bad luck. But the truth cuts deeper. It's not failure you fear. It's freedom. Because freedom demands responsibility. And your subconscious has lived too long in the safety of control. Sabotage is not random. It's a strategy. A strategy created by the mind to return you to the known. Think about this. A person raised in chaos feels peace as boring. A person raised in judgment feels praise as uncomfortable. A person raised in neglect doesn't trust love. So when life begins to improve, a whisper rises from the shadows of your mind. This isn't safe. This isn't me. You don't deserve this. And just like that, the strings pull you back. Your brain is wired for patterns. It doesn't care if those patterns hurt you. It cares if they're familiar. Familiar equals safe. Unfamiliar equals threat. Even if it's joy. Even if it's love. Even if it's success. So your subconscious will create resistance, not because it hates you, but because it thinks it's protecting you. That fear you feel before a breakthrough, that sudden exhaustion when it's time to act, that critical voice that screams, "Who do you think you are?" That's the cage, not built of bars, but of beliefs. You stay small not because you're weak, but because small feels familiar. You push people away not because you want to be alone, but because closeness once hurt you. You delay your dreams not because you lack talent, but because success threatens your identity. In your subconscious, pain is safer than the unknown. But here's the turning point. Every time you notice sabotage, every time you catch yourself retreating, you are waking up. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are protecting an inner child who learned that pain was home. But now, you're older, and you can choose again. Not by force, but by compassion. I see you. I know why you're afraid, but we're safe now. In the next chapter, we'll confront the hardest truth of all, how the illusion of control is actually the biggest puppet string of them all, and how surrender, not struggle, might be the key to finally cutting the strings. Control. It feels safe, clean, predictable. We plan. We overthink. We grip tightly to people, outcomes, even identities, all in the name of security. But here's the haunting truth. Control is the ultimate illusion. What if I told you that your need to control is actually how your subconscious controls you? You think you're steering the ship, but your hands are just tracing old, invisible maps, written in childhood by someone else's fear. Your hypervigilance, your perfectionism, your fear of failure. These aren't signs of strength. They're symptoms of a wound. Control is how the mind hides anxiety. When you fear abandonment, you become perfect. When you fear chaos, you micromanage everything. When you fear judgment, you stay silent. But the tighter you grip, the more life slips through your fingers. Because the truth is this: you never had control. Not over people, not over outcomes, not even over your thoughts. That voice in your head telling you to fix everything, that's not your true self. That's the inner child trying to feel safe. But control doesn't heal trauma. It hides it. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting what is real. It means allowing life to unfold without needing to manipulate every detail. It means trusting yourself enough to adapt instead of obsessing over every possible danger. It means walking into the unknown with open hands, not clenched fists. The ego fears surrender because it loses power. But the soul, it thrives in surrender because it gains peace. Letting go is not passive. It is the most active kind of trust. You still act. You still speak. You still create. But without the constant panic of what if. Imagine your life without that tension in your chest, without the pressure to be in control of everything. Imagine breathing and finally feeling safe, even when things are uncertain. That's not chaos. That's clarity. And the more you let go of control, the more you find what was always real underneath it. Freedom. Sometimes, the strings controlling us aren't external. They're inside, buried deep, invisible even to us. I'm talking about trauma. Trauma doesn't always come with bruises or broken bones. Sometimes it comes in silence. A look, a word, a moment that changed you. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you were never heard. Maybe you were made to feel unworthy, again and again. And over time, that pain didn't disappear. It went underground, into your subconscious. Trauma programs your beliefs. It whispers lies into your mind, like, I'm not enough. I must please everyone to be safe. Love is pain. People always leave. These aren't just thoughts. They become rules your brain follows, even when you're not aware of them. Ever wonder why you keep sabotaging your success? Why you ruin relationships before they get too close? Why happiness makes you anxious? It's not weakness, it's programming. Your mind thinks it's protecting you, but really, it's trapping you in a cycle of pain that feels familiar. Your trauma has triggers, words, smells, tones, looks that activate emotional reactions in seconds. You snap, you withdraw, you panic, and you don't even know why. It's not random. It's your subconscious replaying the old tape over and over again. Here's the secret no one tells you. Your trauma isn't reacting to the present moment. It's the child inside you reacting to the past. The pain you didn't heal becomes the lens through which you see everything. You're not broken. You're wounded. And your mind is trying to survive the only way it knows how. But here's the truth. What was done to you doesn't have to control what comes from you. You can take the strings back, but first, you have to see them. You have to face the shadows, not to fear them, but to free yourself from them. There's a moment. It doesn't happen loudly. There's no spotlight, no applause, just a quiet shift. It happens when you pause and see the pattern, not just the pain, but the puppet strings. Awareness is the first knife that cuts the strings, because once you see the pattern, you're no longer just a puppet. You're the observer. That moment when you realize, I don't have to react this way. I've been here before, and now I choose differently. That's not just a thought. That's a revolution inside you. Most people notice their patterns and hate themselves for it. Why do I always mess this up? Why am I like this? But healing doesn't come from judgment. It comes from compassion. Try this instead. I see you, old pattern. I know why you're here. But you don't get to lead anymore. Be warned. Awakening isn't always beautiful. It's not all light and love. It's grief. Grief for the years lost. For the love you didn't know how to accept. For the self you abandoned to survive. But inside that grief is power. Because you're no longer sleepwalking. Even after awakening, the strings don't vanish overnight. They'll tug again, in the middle of a conversation, during an argument, when you're afraid to be seen. But now, you know it's happening, and that knowing, that's your freedom. You've seen the patterns, you've felt the strings, and now you're choosing. Choosing presence over autopilot, truth over comfort, freedom over fear. That's the first step out of the labyrinth. You don't escape the puppet show by burning the stage. You escape it. Now that you've seen the strings, the question becomes, what do I do with this awareness? How do I take back control from the hidden forces that shaped me? Rewiring the mind isn't done with one grand act. It's done with tiny rebellions, repeated every day. When the voice in your head says, I'm not good enough, you pause and say, I hear you, but I choose differently. You won't believe it at first, but the brain listens to repetition, not just logic. The subconscious learns through what it sees most often. If you want to rewire it, change what you feed it. Surround yourself with voices that speak healing. People who reflect your growth, not your wounds. Books that challenge your limits, not reinforce them. Content that awakens, not numbs. Make the unfamiliar familiar, because what's repeated becomes real. Science once thought the brain was fixed, but now we know it's plastic. It changes, learns, rebuilds. Every time you make a different choice, you carve a new path in the mind. It might be hard at first, like hacking a trail through a thick forest. But over time, that trail becomes a road, then a highway. Ask yourself this: what story am I still living in? Was it written by fear? By trauma? By someone who broke you? It's time to become the author. Write new pages. Speak new beliefs. Act out a truth you haven't even seen fully yet. You're not here to repeat the old script. You're here to rewrite it. You won't always get it right. You'll fall back, slip into old roles. But here's the truth. Healing isn't perfection. It's integration. It's noticing when you fall and getting back up faster each time. The goal isn't to be untouchable. It's to be conscious. You've come so far, from being a puppet of your own pain, to the pilot of your own becoming. It's not about controlling everything. It's about choosing, consciously, what gets to control you. This is the revolution no one talks about. The uprising with no banners, no crowds, no shouting. It happens in silence, in your bedroom at 3 a.m., in your car when the music stops, in the quiet defiance of a new choice. It happens inside. Most people live in their minds, trapped in loops, doubts, rehearsals of old pain. But those who awaken, they don't live in the mind. They live from it. They use it as a tool, not a cage. The mind becomes the servant, not the master. When you live from the inside out, you don't just react, you respond. You pause before speaking. You breathe before judging. You choose before repeating. This is power, not control over others, but mastery over self. You're not just a name, a role, a personality. You are awareness itself. The deeper you go, the less you cling to who you were, and the more you become who you are becoming. This is not self-improvement, it's self-remembrance. When you stop living to convince everyone, you begin living for something real. You don't chase validation. You don't need to be understood, because you understand yourself. And that is the most dangerous freedom there is. Most of the world is asleep, repeating, reacting, running. But you've started to wake up. You see the strings. You hear the quiet lies. You feel the shift inside you. You've begun the great unraveling, and there's no going back. So now the question isn't, who's in control? The real question is, will you take the wheel? Will you live another day in the prison? Or step into the terrifying, liberating, sacred unknown? The puppet strings are weakening. The shadows are fading. The mirror is cracking. And you are finally seeing yourself.